Hi all! Everything in my video is pulled from the public domain, and I am using them under the Fair Use, Fair Dealings guidelines. Everything I say is my own opinion. You should look into this information for yourselves, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Good morning, you guys. Happy Saturday morning. All right, we have a lot to cover again, and of course, we have more memes. It was inevitable. So let's just jump in with what we've got, and let's get there, shall we? Let's go. We're going to start off this morning with Paul Burrell again. It's come to our attention that in 2001, a letter was received from Paul's attorney asking for a meeting to discuss Paul's life and service with the royal family, and the Queen declined the meeting. But essentially, she knew that Mr. Burrell had a bunch of Diana's belongings. So what happened was he was accused of selling some of Diana's stuff. Now, in 1997, the Queen met with Mr. Burrell privately at his request, and in the course of that discussion, he told the Queen he had some of Diana's effects. So the Queen was involved in this entire case, and the judge decided to dismiss the case, and Buckingham Palace released the entire thing and how the Queen was involved again today because of the accusations made against Paul Burrell. And they're saying that as of October of 2002, they're saying that he didn't sell any of the stuff. No, but he's holding it. Yeah, we're going to look deeper into this. My big question is, why is this coming back all these years later? Who's making these allegations? Why is this up again? We'll keep an eye on this entire one, okay? Moving on. Next up, Sophie and Edward, the Earl and Countess of Wessex, presented the Duke of Edinburgh Gold Award while they were still in the Cayman Islands. Now, some more information is coming out about her outfits. I told you that that's what was going to happen. It's still very hard to get any information on what's going on because I'm telling you, they just don't release the information like they should. Here's the outfit that Sophie was wearing when she was supporting the Women in Finance dinner, still in the Cayman Islands. Next up, you have Sophie arriving at her last day in the Turks and Caicos for a Women in Leadership tea party. She looked absolutely gorgeous in this dress, which is about 1,300 pounds. I've told you guys before, I love her style. She chooses very classy pieces, and a lot of her clothing on this trip, and if you guys have been watching all this, and thank you to Remoulade Sauce for this, but a lot of her outfits have been rewears. The shoes, the purse, everything is rewears, but the stuff is always very tailored and looks very nice on her, and she's able to accessorize nicely, so she's so personable. All right, moving on. Now, upon their arrival to the Bahamas, the Prime Minister Philip Davis met with Edward and Sophie before they went onto the stage for the next thing that they were going to do that day. So they sat down with him, and then when they got done with the meeting, then they went down to the main conference room where Edward was giving out the Governor's Award. It's like the Duke of Edinburgh Award. And of course, Sophie looked wonderful. They all looked wonderful. Again, Sophie looks effortless in this outfit. Now, a lot of people have been commenting that Edward looks very thin. I have to agree with you. He does look quite thin. He's been looking that thin since the death of his father and his mother within 2 years. People are asking if he was sick. I have to be honest and say no, because I don't believe if he was sick that they would be sending him on these tours. So I think he's just hasn't recovered yet from the death of both of his parents. Just my personal opinion. Now, when that was over, Sophie was hosted by some environmental specialists, and she saw some iguana species, and she saw a demonstration of some underwater cameras. Very nice. Now, I have some other pictures showing Edward doing some other things, but unfortunately, as is typical, I don't have any context of where he was and what he was doing, but looks like he's having a good time. All right, let's move on now. All right, next up, this was sent to me by one of my subscribers. These are $2 coins being issued in Canada to commemorate Queen Elizabeth. They're black rimmed and hard to find through the banks or the Canadian Mint. That's pretty cool. All right, moving on. Elizabeth Llewellyn received her MBE from the Prince of Wales. She said she called William top dad for encouraging his daughter in her dance and music. I have to say, I'm loving this outfit and I love that hat. Looking good. Congratulations. Next up, Prince William. I showed you guys that he went to the Passage and officially opened one of the 2 new residential buildings. Well, while he was there, he spoke to Sister Joan. She is a nun with the Daughters of Charity, St. Vincent de Paul. And she remembered William. She met him when he was 3 years old when he was there with Diana. Very sweet. And just to show you how he's been involved, he was volunteering with them for years without anybody knowing until 2019. While he was volunteering, one of the people there recognized him, whipped out their cell phone, and took these photos. So that just goes to show you that he actually cares and was volunteering his time. Sticking with Prince William, signed, sealed, and delivered, absolutely. Prince Charles's letters patent passed the Great Seal of the Realm as of February 13th, creating Royal Highness Prince William Arthur Philip Louis, the Duke of Cornwall and Cambridge, and, the whole shebang. Way to go, Charles. Way to go, William. All right, next up, these next 2 pictures were also sent from one of my subscribers. She said that the way the books were placed, she thought was hilarious. She thinks the shopkeepers did it on purpose, but she's not sure. So let's look. Here's his book next to 2 books that are titled How to Kill Your Family and The End of a Marriage. And the other 2 books next to his book were called Putin's Black Book and Nothing Less Than the Truth. Yes, I think that was done deliberately. Moving on. All right, I told you that the Queen had 3 things to do the other day. So when she was done with the reading room, she went and reopened the newly renovated Boston Manor and marked its 400th anniversary. She also toured the Jacobean House's rooms, and she met with the architects, staff, volunteers, craftspeople, all the people who helped renovate this house. And she was also presented with a replica of a key given to the Queen Mother back in the 1960s. She said that she would use her key to let herself in when she needed a bit of a break. Good for her. Now, she also visited fashion royalty when she made a visit to Professor Jimmy Chu's design school on the grounds of Boston Manor House and saw the work by the students and the graduates. They were making, these shoes. There are also primary school children there that were waiting to greet them and see them off. Very nice. All right, do you guys remember when Camilla gave her speech and she talked about Roald Dahl's books and they're making hundreds of changes to the original text to reflect the modern world, and they don't want to offend anybody. So the Oompa Loompas are now gender neutral, and Mrs. Twit is no, you know what I mean? They're changing things. Augustus Gloop is no longer called quote unquote fat. These are, this is from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, a classic book. So great news, because after the Queen's speech, the publishers of his novels have decided to publish the classic texts alongside the new modern versions. So, the older generation like myself can still read the classics, and the younger people, if their parents want them to read the doctored versions, then they can. There's 17 titles total, so good. Way to go. All right, let's move on. All right, let's move on now to Andrew. He is saying that he is not going to leave that house because he's already spent millions of his own money keeping it up and running. Now, there is some suggestion, when, I don't know if you guys remember back when Windsor caught fire, in order to help pay for the fixing of it. They opened up the house to tours. And so people are suggesting that possibly they'll be opening up this Windsor Lodge that he lives in, not the whole thing, obviously, just a few rooms for tours. So if you want to see where he lives, where his daughters, grew up, where Eugenie had her wedding reception, etc., you could pay to take a tour. I don't know how that'll work, but we'll see. Moving on. All right, moving on. A new poll has come out, and I'm shocked that Jack Royston, who is an absolute sugar, and we all know it, is reporting that Harry and Meghan are less popular than Andrew. So if he's writing it, it's probably true. Now, I will tell you, I also heard a rumor today that Harry and Meghan are looking to leave the United States because their popularity is so bad. And guess where they're eyeing? You'll never guess. Okay, I'll tell you. Australia. Yes, that's what's being rumored. Shocking. All right. Next up, the King Charles put out a very nice statement to Ukraine on the 1-year anniversary of the war starting. And people are saying Charles should keep his nose out of politics. I got to be honest, you guys. I don't think sending a message saying that your people are courageous and resilient is getting into politics. Just my personal opinion. Then a beautiful service at the Ukrainian Catholic Church went on in London this morning, and they paid tribute to all the people who have lost their lives in the war. All right, here we go. Jeremy Clarkson, they tried to cancel him, Meghan and Harry, and instead he broke viewing records for Prime Video. Yes, everybody felt really bad for him because he apologized. Harry and Meghan threw his apology back in his face. Then he apologized again. They didn't accept it. They threw it back in his face. That's when I think the tide really started to turn and people really got an idea of what was really going on with Harry and Meghan. His farm shop is ridiculous. The lines going out the door. People are lining up like crazy. His column is still going, his shows are still going, and that just goes to show that as much as you try to cancel somebody, when you don't act with humility and you don't accept their apology, now they look terrible and Jeremy's rising. There you go. All right, moving on. All right, moving on. Here we go. We know that Prince Harry sat down in January. He did all these interviews for his memoir, Spare. And one of the interviews was with James Colbert on his show. Well, it's being reported that he did a new pre-recorded appearance on that same show, and it's going to air on February 28th. It's being reported he's going to be in the Colbert Questions segment, where Mr. Colbert asks questions ranging from innocuous to really bad. So you never know what's going to come out of his mouth. I have to tell you that this is probably one of the reasons why the royal family has not given him the apology he has asked for and why they're not going to while he's still making the circuit rounds. You know what I'm saying? All right, moving on. All right, now they're saying that they think Harry and Meghan are going to opt out of the coronation because they're still, quote unquote, licking their wounds. Here's my thought process. They're going to go. Absolutely. There's no way that Meghan's going to miss putting a little tiny crown thing on her head. I'm telling you, they're not going to miss it. That's my opinion. All right, next up. Are Britain still paying for Meghan Markle's mother's security? It's being reported that when Harry and Meghan first got together, the Britons were paying for Doria's security. I don't know if they were paying for it directly or if Harry got a like a stipend and he was using it that way. But I find it very interesting that Doria was given security and Thomas was not. Thomas was just left to hang out there in the wind and be attacked by, the paparazzi and all the stuff that happened with the photos. But she made sure her mother was protected, but she left her dad just hanging. Interesting. All right, moving on. All right, we're getting towards the end here. I just had to put this in because Carol Malone said Harry is a man without a country. And I have to agree, I think he is. The UK doesn't want him back. He has no relationship with his family anymore. The United States doesn't like him. They don't like his wife. They're eyeing another place to go. He is a man without a country, but so is she. All right, the last story before we get to the poem and the memes is that South Park exposed the major flaw in Harry and Meghan's biggest complaint with the media. And that's the fact that they want their privacy, and yet they're constantly giving interviews and writing books and you know, the Cut magazine and the Times and, you know, the Netflix series and at the book, The Spare, and at the same time they're screaming, give us our privacy, give us our privacy. This is their major flaw. All right, here we go. This poem was written for me by one of my subscribers. The ginger-haired prince was getting his first trot behind a pub in a vacant lot. He fancied his Todger, the best in the land, and this tryst tonight with a girl, not his hand. He mounted her quickly for this romp in the grass, and when it was over, she slapped his, you know what. He shouted, was that like riding a stallion for you? She mumbled, more like a quick pony ride at a petting zoo. All right, it's meme time. Here we go. All right, you guys. Now, I need your comments below. Now, as is usual, remember, there's no video on Sunday, okay? So the next one you'll get from me is on Monday. So leave those comments below. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell. If you've already hit the bell, please double check. People are still being unsubscribed. I don't know why, and I have no control over that. So just double check, okay? Don't forget to go up into the description box and you'll find the links to my Twitter, my Getter, my Rumble, my email, my Patreon. For those of you who have donated through the Coffee Fund and through my thanks button, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.